just on Nigeria, one of the arguments Al Jazeera are making, and if they're committed to anything, it's inverting the truth, but they are saying that these groups like Boko Haram in Nigeria are killing Muslims just as much as they're killing Christians, and they're not actually targeting these people because they're Christians. They're targeting them because they're in their way. They're against what they're trying to achieve. And it is true, right, that they're also killing other Muslims.
Yes, it's true. Muslims are being killed. But for example, as I mentioned, that massacre in the church, why go in and kill all the people in a church on a Sunday? They're not going into a mosque and killing everyone on a Friday. This is targeted. If there were small incidents or isolated incidents, but this is year in and year out for many, many years and getting worse and worse and worse. And the Nigerian government has obviously a big stake in. They're spending a lot of money. They've got a lot of lobbyists in places like DC now trying to spread the narrative that this isn't about Christians, this has other reasons, but it's not. It's the principal cause is Islamist violence against Christians. Innocent Muslims get killed as well, sadly.
What's been the Nigerian government's attitude towards Boko Haram? I'll be totally honest, it's not a country I know very much about. So what exactly are they... what is the broader conflict that's going on in Nigeria?
Well, it's not just Boko Haram. It is, as I said, various other Islamist groups now. Islamist groups that were declared loyalty to ISIS have declared loyalty to al-Qaeda. They have a number of different names, but they're all under that umbrella of Islamist extremism, jihadi extremism. And the previous Nigerian government received a lot of criticism for not cracking down on this. There's so many divisions in Nigeria as well. There are tribal divisions, ethnic divisions as well. This all always plays into this. In that sense, it's not 100% cut and dried, but it is 100% cut and dried that Christians in the majority are being killed as opposed to others. The present government is confused, weak. Nigeria, it's to do with the way many of these African countries were created by. I mean, I'm a big fan of colonialism in one way, but we did make a lot of mistakes cutting across tribal boundaries and things like that, and so this plays into other countries as well. My issue, particularly with Washington, with America, and with Britain, this country, is trade and aid. We've got to withhold and hold the government to account when we give thousands or millions and also arms sales. These are things we can practically do to say, but as it's just sort of becoming talked about, meanwhile thousands of people are being killed.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned that sort of Africa more broadly. It does seem that of all of the countries at the top of the list, of the sort of watch list for Christian persecution, the vast majority, it looks like it's Islamist on Christian attacks. But actually, even closer still, it is largely Africa: Somalia, Yemen, Libya. You mentioned Mozambique. Now, Sudan is a overwhelmingly majority Muslim country. It's like 98% Sunni Muslim, but there are Christians being persecuted there. Before we go and look into some of these different countries, I think you might have been about to make a broader point about Islamism in Africa, or if not, where do you think this Islamism in Africa comes from? Why is it such a big problem today?
It's part of the growth over the last 20 or 30 years. It's come from people like ISIS. ISIS inspired so many organizations, groups to declare their loyalty. Al-Qaeda. I read a report, I think it was today, that the country of Mali is in great danger. The capital is in great danger of falling to al-Qaeda, not ISIS, another group, which would be the first country that's actually fallen to such a group. Where's it come from? We can trace it, again, going much further back. We can trace it back to that whole Wahhabi, Saudi extremism that was under the previous Saudi leaders, was being spread across the world. That's why, for example, in Pakistan, there's such extremism. Other countries in the Middle East, we can name some of them that are well. Let's name them. The Qatar, that's well known as being a supporter, a financer of Hamas, of Hezbollah. This is all being fed from all these different sources. The one thing I would say to step back is, and it's useful to bear it in mind. When I first went to Iraq in 2015. ISIS was just down the road. There were thousands of Christian refugee IDPs, again had been driven from their ancient homeland. But a lady who was helping me there said, "You got to forget everything you think you know or knew. It's very complicated. So when someone comes in and gives you extremely clear reasons for everything, be suspicious, and be suspicious as well of everything you read on the internet, because a lot of people make a lot of points without knowing fact. And that's not an excuse, but it is extremely complicated. But there are things you can pick out. Obviously, if a majority of Christians are being killed, someone's doing it and there's a reason behind it. But some of the forces and things that feed into this, and who's backing them and why, you bring in even the superpowers, who's backing who, and trade, minerals. That there are just so many things behind this. But at the core, we could go back to one of your previous guests on this show, Raymond Ibrahim, and you talk about the 1400-year battle that we've had as Christians with Islam. I know we're not meant to sort of say that, but this is just a historical fact that for 1400 years Islam has conquered. It's a religion of conquering, and Christians have suffered back and forth for 1400 years, and they're suffering again.
Yeah, well, Raymond made the point that, from 100 years from the death of the Prophet Muhammad in 632, within 100 years, you have Muslims up in Tours in the middle of France. They're defeated there by Charles Martel. And but all of the Middle East and North Africa was Christian before then, and within a century was converted to Islam, or put under the boot of Islamic overlords
forever. Wherever now Muslims are in the majority, Christians are always second-class citizens. It doesn't mean they're being killed or, in a sense, actively persecuted, but wherever Muslims are in the majority, Christians are second-class citizens. Always. Everywhere. There's no country that is a Muslim majority where Christians are not. The only places where they were equal, which again is very controversial, and it doesn't mean these people were good, was under the strongmen, the dictators in places like Iraq and Syria, the Saddams and the Assads. Not saying they're good people, far from it, but they were in essence secular republics, and so there wasn't that kind of violence between Christians and Muslims. In fact, most of the time they lived in peace. And I know, again, from my own experience, one of the things we have to do is say what, as the Bible says, what we've seen and heard, whether it's controversial or not, or whether people agree with you or not, you have to say what you've seen and heard. And certainly in Iraq and Syria, people often say, well, we need another strongman again. I've heard it said in Iraq many times, we need another Saddam. Now, no one pretends Saddam was a good man, but he kept the peace. They were not killing each other. From 2003, I know we're jumping ahead to the Middle East, but
he killed quite a lot of people.
Well, he did, but it's worth bearing in mind again that after the invasion, the Allied invasion of Iraq in 2003, that's when all the killing began. That's when, because society broke apart, And people think it all started in 2014 with ISIS. No, well before that, Christians were being kidnapped, murdered, their lives, they were being driven out of Mosul, for example. This was all before ISIS. And then ISIS just made it even worse. It's always, is it bad? A priest said to me one time in Iraq, when I talked about Saddam's time, he said, there's bad or worse. Which would you like to live under? And I said, well, obviously bad. That's the point. It's bad. Now it's much worse. And the same thing in Africa. If there's a strong man, he may be brutal. There may not be what we call freedom in the West, but at least if two groups are not killing each other, I'd rather live under that regime than another one.
Thanks for watching this clip from The Winston Marshall Show. You can click here to watch the full episode, and for more clips like this one, don't forget to subscribe. And as always, be well.